Welcome, and thank you for taking the time to join us in our brief presentation concerning the proposed stock development 1 Naples, planned for the corner of Gulf Shore Drive and Vanderbilt Beach Road, directly across from the beach. If you are seeing this on Facebook or YouTube, and you have questions, please go to www.savevanderbiltbeach.com, where you will find an opportunity to email us. We will respond to all questions promptly. If you're watching this on our live webcast, simply raise your hand. That's the button in the lower center of your screen. We'll get to you at the conclusion of the presentation. We are Save Vanderbilt Beach, Inc., a Florida 501c4 nonprofit which was formed in January of 2020. We have a 3-member board of directors, none of whom is compensated for his or her work. Since we began, more than 1,200 people have registered on our website, over 40% of whom have become donors, allowing us to engage the numerous experts required to go up against a large developer. Rarely, if ever, has a proposed development such as 1 Naples garnered this level of opposition. Our experts specialize in the areas of coastal high hazard law, planning, traffic engineering, land use law, and architecture. It's simply outrageous that any community group speaking for the people of the neighborhood should have to invest more than $100,000 in order to be properly represented and heard. In this slide, you will see a representation of a portion of the proposed development. It contains these 2 towers, reaching 186 feet in height, as well as 3 smaller buildings. To give you a sense of scale, the red circle to the left of the tower is the lighthouse at Buzz's Restaurant. More about this in a moment. When we began, we described our mission as you will see here. Our mission is to protect the residents of the Vanderbilt Beach and Naples Park neighborhoods from unreasonable development, and in a more general sense, to protect all of Collier County's residents who are users of Vanderbilt Beach itself by promoting continued and improving access. The importance of this project has grown, and its passage or denial by the county commissioners will have an impact far into the future on growth throughout the county. As Buzz Victor, president of Save Vanderbilt Beach, Inc., told the county commissioners recently, "This is no longer just a District 2 issue and just a Vanderbilt Beach issue. 1 Naples and its current design has really become a bellwether about how growth will be handled in the future in Collier County." Stock first presented 1 Naples in 2017. At the time, it was a single, massive tower containing 21 stories and over 300 residences. The outcry from the neighborhood was so great that it forced him back to the drawing board, and he has finally come up with what you see here, 2 towers of 14 stories each. As you can see, compared to the Beachmore, the 12-story building next to the red arrow, the current design is still massive and out of scale with its surroundings. As we learned more about the process through which Stock had to go to receive approvals for the project, we were stunned by what we saw. The history of the county commissioners for decades had been a posture favoring developers, often over the objection of neighborhoods. Within the last year, for example, the commissioners approved the Allura apartment complex, which was opposed by its neighbors. And perhaps you've read about the lawsuit filed by the Conservancy of Southwest Florida over the commissioner's decision to approve Rivergrass Village. Because 1 Naples is no longer just a Vanderbilt Beach neighborhood issue, the input of residents throughout the county, informing their own commissioner that they oppose the developer-friendly policies of the past, is critical. It's just like the message sent last March, when the voters of the city of Naples threw out the city council and the mayor. The issue was the many variances that were granted to developers, allowing excess height and density. It's up to all of us to send a similar message to the county commissioners. That way, we can protect all our neighborhoods from the kind of overreaching development exemplified by 1 Naples. And that's why your participation is so necessary. A denial of this project marks the end of business as usual in Collier County. It means the beginning of smarter growth for all of us. Don't get us wrong. We're not opposed to growth. We're not opposed to Stock, who we recognize as a good developer, and we're not opposed to the development of this corner. We stand for responsible growth and for development that is compatible and consistent with its neighborhood. That's what zoning and land use codes are all about. The property Stock has acquired contains 4.63 acres. He's asking that the county gift him an additional 0.79 acres made up of portions of several streets and alleyways that you see here. That's quite a gift. Based on Stock's purchase price of his 4.63 acres, this additional nearly 0.8 of an acre has a value of over $4.3 million. At very least, perhaps Stock should be asked to pay for this land. All told, his site comprises 5.42 acres. It's currently zoned C3, a neighborhood commercial zoning that may permit, upon application, some residential component. More about this in a moment. The county's growth management plan exists to protect neighborhoods and to provide the best quality of life possible. In the plan, this corner was designated commercial to provide services to the surrounding population. How nice would it be to have several restaurants, or a beach store for those who left the sunscreen at home, or a deli convenience store, a wine shop, a tailor, or a nail salon, all within walking distance. That was the plan. Stock is asking to change that plan, and to do so, he's asking that the county's growth management plan be amended, allowing a new subdistrict to be created. This subdistrict is made up only of his 5.42 acres. This is so important a change that the law requires a supermajority of the county commissioners to approve it. If that happens, Stock will be allowed to proceed with his zoning and his overreaching development. We think that all the county commissioners should say no to the proposed development, but we only need 2 to do so. That's why we need your help. As you will learn, his plans are neither consistent with nor compatible with the neighborhood. Here's the problem. If Stock is permitted to go forward with his plan, it changes the compatibility standards in Vanderbilt Beach. The next developer who comes along is not pointing to Pelican Bay. He's pointing to 186-foot-tall structures in the Vanderbilt Beach neighborhood. Eventually, it's a canyon of tall buildings on both sides of Vanderbilt Beach Drive, all the way up to Bluebell. That's what we call Miami Beach West. Check out the scale. This view looks west. The beach is behind the towers. The Vanderbilt Lagoon is to the right. The small building with the cars in front of it is the restaurant Daruma, a single-story building that doesn't even reach the height of the wall you see at the base of the towers that encloses the One Naples parking structure. That wall is 35 feet tall. Along Vanderbilt Beach Road and Gulf Shore Drive, the wall extends more than 700 feet. Worse, it is set back only 15 feet from Stock's property line. More about the setback issue in a moment. Phase 1 of the county's process required for a developer to get his approvals is the seeking of the input of the county planning staff, providing the various county departments with information to allow them to make a recommendation to the Planning Commission. The visuals that you see in this presentation were created by us based on that information as filed by Stock with the county. Phase 2 of the process is the requirement that the developer hold a neighborhood information meeting, informing the public about his plans. Stock did so in March 2020. More than 400 residents attended that meeting. When asked how many supported the plan, only 8 raised their hands. Phase 3 of the process is the presenting of the application to the Planning Commission, which in turn makes its recommendation for approval or denial to the county commissioners, who may or may not accept that recommendation. Our experts, along with Stock's experts, made their cases to the Planning Commission. Over an unheard-of 3 days of hearings, ultimately, the Planning Commission could not muster the votes to recommend approval to the county commissioners. Score 1 for our team. What did we argue before the Planning Commission? It was all about the code requirement that a project must be by law consistent and compatible with its neighborhood. Stock's attorney argued that buildings located south of Vanderbilt Beach Road in Pelican Bay were in some cases taller than the proposed structures. By that measure, he said, this plan is consistent and compatible with the neighborhood. We pointed out that Pelican Bay, a planned development, required extensive setbacks, extensive open space, and was 4 square miles in area, over 2,500 acres. That's 472 times larger than the Stock property. Taller structures are compatible and appropriate in Pelican Bay, but Vanderbilt Beach is not Pelican Bay. Earlier, we spoke about the current zoning on Stock's property. It is C3, a neighborhood commercial zone. The height restriction in C3 is 50 feet. An option exists to apply for what is called a mixed-use C3 zoning, which will allow some residential development to be mixed in with the commercial uses. This would be, from the neighborhood's point of view, a very acceptable alternative. Think of a very mini mercado, not with movie theaters, supermarkets, or national retailers, all of whom need high traffic volumes and who want to be on the US 41 corridor, but with smaller restaurants and small local shops, more like those in Venetian Village. Like C3, mixed-use C3 allows structures only 50 feet tall. Stock's project is for 2 towers, each 14 stories, reaching 186 feet, and for 3 other 6-story buildings ranging between 77 and 87 feet. Compare these requests to the heights of the buildings typical in the Vanderbilt Beach neighborhood. On the beach side of Gulf Shore Drive, the average number of stories for the 11 buildings shown on this slide is 7. On the lagoon side, the side of the proposed development, the contrast is even more stark. The average number of stories of the 8 buildings shown is only 4. Returning once again to the Collier County land use codes, C3 zoning has stringent restrictions defining setbacks, mass, and open space. A setback defines the minimum distance from a property line where a building may be built. Specifically in Stock's case, the front yard setbacks, defined as fronting on Vanderbilt Beach Road and on Gulf Shore Drive, are required to be 50% of the building's height. In the case of Stock's towers, that would be a setback of 93 feet, and in the case of the new mid-rise building, located along Vanderbilt Beach Road east of the towers, the setback required would be 38.5 feet. What is Stock requesting? For the 35-foot-tall parking podium wall, just 15 feet, and for the towers themselves, only 25 to 35 feet. That's less than a third of what is required, or seen another way, it's a 66% reduction from the requirements. For the mid-rise building along Vanderbilt Beach Road, Stock's request is for 15 feet. With the requirement of 38.5 feet, that's a 61% reduction from the requirement. These requests are simply beyond comprehension in a neighborhood where setbacks range from 25 to more than 100 feet, as seen in the green overlay on this slide. C3 zoning also requires that 30% of the land area be what is called usable open space. Stock insists that he's providing that. What he doesn't explain is that half of that space is located on the roof of the parking structure surrounding the towers. Really? The development's swimming pools and cabanas are usable open space? Certainly not for the public. Certainly not for the required purpose of creating green relief from the intensity and mass of the structures. Like so much of this proposed development, this is simply overreach. Although Stock does not say it, his need for the scale and density that he requests is driven by 2 factors. The first is the shape of the property, which makes logical and efficient site plan design extremely difficult. The second, like so many things, is about money. Stock's sizable investment in the land and the extraordinarily high costs of building in a coastal high-hazard area require this grandiose development scheme so that he can reap the financial rewards he seeks. But remember, there's no call for a neighborhood to suffer, or for county government to break the rules just to protect the developer's economics. These requests are neither compatible nor consistent. As was mentioned, there's a portion of the Land Development Code that allows for C3 zoned property to include some residential usage. In the case of Stock's property, that allowance is for 16 residential units per acre. The 5.42 acres of the site allow for 86 residences. The Stock proposal calls for up to 172, virtually double the number that's allowed. The impact of this is multifold. It delivers double the traffic that would be generated by a conforming project. In today's COVID times, it simply puts more people into a smaller space than would a conforming project. It negatively impacts hurricane evacuation time, which is already much longer than is acceptable. And finally, it adds more people to the already overcrowded Vanderbilt Beach, as may be seen here. This is not our, meaning the Vanderbilt Beach neighborhood's beach. It's everyone's beach. It's Collier County's beach. It needs to be protected. This is neither compatible nor consistent. Stock is asking for a marina of up to 99 slips. That's larger than the Naples City Dock. Although he states that he will only build what will be allowed after he completes environmental studies, shouldn't he have to complete those studies before he's given permission to create the marina? Even if a smaller facility is built, many questions remain unanswered. What would be the effects of such a project on the wildlife or the seagrass beds of Vanderbilt Lagoon? Manatees are frequent visitors to the lagoon, as this photo from March of 2020 illustrates. Originally, this was to be a private marina, with slips for sale only to owners of One Naples residential units. Now Stock has amended the original application, stating that the marina is primarily private. It will now allow up to 4 commercial slips to be leased to charter operations. And what are the assurances that the resale of slips will be restricted to One Naples owners? What consideration has been given to the need for additional parking for users of the marina and the proposed ship store? Although Stock suggests that the store will only be available from the water, we know that land-based customers will want to access it as well to purchase bait, tackle, and other necessities supplied by such a retail outlet. A fuel dock is also planned. How are fuel deliveries handled? Where are the fuel storage tanks located? These are all legitimate concerns. For decades, commissioners have endlessly voted to approve local developers' projects, often ignoring the feelings of impacted residents. Remarkably, one commissioner even stated during 2020's primary race that in his career on the Board of County Commissioners, he had only voted against one development that came before him. That, he said, was a church. Over the past 12 months, county commissioners have each received literally hundreds of emails, the vast majority which oppose One Naples as proposed. Many of these were encouraged by Save Vanderbilt Beach and other organizations, and most came from the residents of District 2, where the project is located. Now we need to show each commissioner that every county resident, from every district, is concerned about this development and all of future county growth. We hope that the foregoing has provided you with enough information to convince you that, as proposed, the One Naples project must be denied. The commissioners will meet on March 1st to consider this development. First, they will hear discussion about the amendment to the growth management plan that creates the 5.42-acre subdistrict. The discussion will feature presentations by both Stock's experts and ours, much like was presented to the Planning Commission. It will result in a vote requiring a supermajority, 4 of the 5 commissioners, in order to be approved. If it's in the negative, the project is dead. But remember that Stock still owns the land, and he can certainly redesign and come back with a more compatible and consistent proposal. Should the Commissioners see fit to approve the amendment, notwithstanding the outcry from thousands of community residents, the next phase of the process will be a vote to approve Stock's zoning request. That's where he asks for his overreaching height, his ridiculous setbacks, and his use of swimming pools as open space. The Collier planning staff, in considering the rezoning request, has recommended approval of the project but conditioned to make buildings better fit the neighborhood. Staff proposes limiting the height of all 4 buildings to 76 feet, although, with a redesign of the towers, setting back higher stories in a wedding cake fashion, staff would allow a height of 125 feet, 67% of the 186-foot request. Staff also recommends a front yard setback of 25 feet for all buildings, rather than the 10 to 15 feet setback that the Stock plan is based on. However, it would allow a front setback of 15 feet for the 2 towers, based on a site plan redesign that provides retail services along Vanderbilt Beach Road and Gulf Shore Drive. While staff's proposal is not our first choice, in the event that the amendment to the growth management plan is approved, we will respect and support staff's recommendations. So what can you do? Remember that your actions today will not only influence the outcome of this single development, but it will send a message to the Commissioners that you want to end developer-focused business as usual in Collier County. Please, email or call your county commissioner, identifying yourself as one of his or her constituents, letting them know your feelings. As we've said, they've already received hundreds of emails, the majority of which have come from District 2. We must broaden our reach. Talk with your friends throughout the county. Encourage them to register with us and to get involved. Please go to www.savevanderbiltbeach.com, where you will see a map of commissioner districts, find instructions on how you can reach your commissioner, find samples of letters and paragraphs that you can use, and find more information about us and One Naples. Thanks in advance for your support. We hope that, like us, you now feel that, as proposed, One Naples is wrong for Vanderbilt Beach and wrong for Collier County. It's wrong for Collier County to be giving Stock more than $4.3 million in land value by gifting him roadways, just so he can violate dozens of our zoning and growth management plan regulations. It's wrong to set this precedent by allowing Stock and future developers to totally obliterate the intent of the county's growth management plan, zoning code, and coastal management guidelines. It's wrong for commissioners to ignore the will of their tax-paying constituents. It's wrong that we as taxpayers have to create organizations like Save Vanderbilt Beach to raise $100,000 or more just to be adequately heard by the county commissioners, particularly as we're only asking that they enforce laws that are already in place. The right thing is to demand that every commissioner vote to deny the changes requested by Stock Development. Your involvement can make that happen. If you have not registered with us, please do so to be notified of upcoming events. Consider donating so that we may continue our work. And save the date, March 1st at 9 a.m. We need a show of force to attend the hearing. That's the way we can protect all of our neighborhoods and assure ourselves that Collier County will remain the wonderful place that we all love. Thank you for joining us and for your support.